things. So nowadays, um, I'd, I'd gone through all of these experiences, and I got to this point where I was overseas in Nepal, and I had fallen down a mountain, and I had to receive. And at that point in time, my whole world shifted and went from very people pleasing to opening myself up to receiving more. And after that, all of the relationships and everything started shifting considerably. So hopefully that's a good intro for who I am, and where people can find me is ospreyguide.com and Osprey Guide on Facebook and TikTok, and osprey.guide on Instagram.
Thank you for sharing that. So I guess my first question is, when I was looking into this and I saw the relationship readiness test, right? I know
Yes.
there's some people out there that probably think as soon as that they were born, Jonathan, they're ready for relationships, right? 1 second on Earth. So explain
Right.
that a little bit to us and the benefits of it and help us to understand what it means.
Yeah, so I developed this readiness test so that people can check in with themselves to see where they are with their relationship with themselves, with past relationships, and with their possibility of going into future relationships. And to kind of see, well, which direction is it going to be best for you to be nurtured in, right? So if somebody is really down in the dumps and really has this very negative self-view, a very bad relationship with oneself, um, and obviously that is not going to create a very good relationship as a result, so with anybody else. So I want to be able to help people go from wherever they're at, heal whatever they had in the past, and then be able to move forward in the best way possible.
When it comes to healing from the past, what do you think are maybe some obstacles that people face in overcoming that?
Mm. Well, there are so many things in one's past that can influence how people show up these days. The biggest one that I like to focus on is the first 5 years of life. And because there are so many subconscious imprints put in, it's really healthy to see, okay, this is what was happening subconsciously. Now let's work with that and input the new foundation that one wants to go forward with. So it's not really about it being for anybody in particular. It's more about being able to help people in general with their own relationship with themselves and future relationships as well.
I remember for me, when I started dating seriously, anyways, it was probably my late teens, early 20s. By these days, by the standards these days, John, that's probably a late bloomer. Um, but what I learned looking back is although I was probably dating more frequently, I probably knew less about how to date with success. As I got older, my 30s and late 30s, and ultimately as I'm looking towards my 40s, I'm finding more success. And the reasons that I can think of is one, I was able to identify what I want out of a relationship. Is that
Yes.
something that people are missing or maybe have some difficulty is understanding what they actually want and being able to communicate that?
Oh, absolutely. That is so hard for most people out there these days, right? So there are all of these different influences coming in from the outside world saying, "Oh, you should do this." Well, you live in Western Canada. To be successful, you must drive a truck, right? Well, but what if that's actually not the case? What if the individual has a different desire deep down that they just don't know is there? So with the test and then the follow-up is the course that I've created around that, people really get to dig into where and what their desires are, and be able to build a foundation of green flag list, red flag list, and non-negotiables as well, and then also just really good healthy communication strategies as well. So we spend weeks and weeks just undoing the the blabbermouthing from the outside world and go, really, okay, this is what I want. And all of those other voices in my head are just my dad, my mom, my grandparents, society, and all of that.
I remember someone shared with me their non-negotiables, and she said, Train, he has to have big hands. I was like, okay,
Okay.
yeah, everyone has a preference. It's a little bit different than the 6 feet, 6 inches, and six figures, right?
Yes.
Right. So she had big hands. So I was like, okay, I was trying to understand why big hands, and she shared her whatever was her reason. I can't remember it. So then I asked her the question. I was like, okay, is it that important? She's like, it's number one on my list, big hands. I was okay.
Wow.
And then he has to be tall as well. I was like, how tall? She's like, after over 6 feet. I was like, okay. If you were to meet someone that is homeless and a woman abuser, but he has big hands at 6 feet, would you date him? She was like, I was like, that's the problem right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? For a lot of people, that would be a clear no, right? Like
absolutely.
he's going to beat you, he's going to mistreat you, he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have all these things. But what I've begun to realize is that for a lot of people, their preferences become their prison, meaning that they will narrow it down to the point where it's no longer, let's say, a list of green flags. It's actually toxic indicators of something else. What are your thoughts on situations where people get so wrapped in what they want, they sometimes overlook some of the red flags that is obvious to everyone else, but may not be to themselves?
Mm. Well, that's a great question. So the thing that reminds me of is um, when I was actually going through various breakups, I had my red flag list, and I was very, very geared towards that and making sure that nobody that I would date would fit into that red flag list. And I was, yeah, hyper focused. And then all of the relationships that were coming in at that point in time were not the best for me. And it wasn't until about, well, before this last relationship where I said, wait a moment, what is my green flag list? And I wrote down all of my green flags. And then I checked off all of the boxes to say, well, do I fit this profile that would attract this kind of person? And I did that. Next thing that I know, this wonderful lady comes into my life, and I couldn't even imagine having a better relationship than this one that I'm in. It's amazing. So that's my long story as to how it went for me. And then for other people, for people that get stuck on those, kind of hyper focused in, the red flags, or they have to have these, like the green flag list. It can be so dangerous because there's the whole spectrum, right? There's this whole spider web, all of the different nuances that matter as well. So maybe if one of those things is not present, which for my green flag list and my red flag list, one of the things is not present. And it's still the most amazing relationship that I could have ever imagined. Now, if I would have totally stuck to my red flag list and said, nope, this is a non-negotiable, this relationship is out, I would have missed out on the most amazing woman that is sitting in the next room. And so it's all about the nuance and seeing where the subconscious patterns are taking oneself.
When you share that example, because I think a lot of people should go through something like that, where if you can have something that is important to you, but then you realize this person, man or woman, regardless of who it is, has everything else but that one, right? Is it really important enough that that one thing is going to supersede the other nine? And when you went through that, what do you think you learned about yourself as you're going through that process?
Mm. I learned the difference between what my preferences are and what my needs are is a big, big difference. Needs are based on values and and being able to live as healthily as possible for oneself. Preferences are more on the other side, which is, well, I like ice cream, but I don't have to eat it every day, right? I prefer, vanilla over strawberry ice cream, so, I'll have vanilla. But if I've got the option to have ice cream in general, I'll have ice cream, right? So this is where I really encourage people to look at what their needs and what their preferences are, because that will just make a world of wonders for their mindset.
I like big hands, but I don't need big hands to live.
Exactly. And what does it mean to have big hands? Like, well, I want big hands. Well, big hands means what? Oh, that this guy is able to work. Okay. Well, what does it mean about, why does he have to work? Well, so that he can provide. Okay. So why does he need to provide? Well, so that I can feel safe. Okay. Why do I want to feel safe? Well, because, I don't want to be in a relationship of mine where I don't feel safe. So going down the list of why is it actually a preference or why is it a need? And I do that even in my day-to-day life where I, tell myself I want something, and then I ask myself, well, why do I want this? Okay, well, it's because of this and this and this and this and this and this. And then if I get to the end and it's in line with my values or is unexplainable, well, I go for it. Versus if I go down the list and I get to, well, if I don't do this, then I'll die, or I'll be unlovable, or if I'll be, you know, um, I'll die alone. That means that it's coming from a trauma place. So big hands, where did that come from? Did that come from a place of, something that is going to serve you? Or is that coming from a place of, is that going to just